Hello, PMC fans and competitive Pokemon fans alike. My name is Spencer, aka S&KGamingg, and welcome you to week 3 of the Power Rankings. Unfortunately, this is our first week of Power Rankings since the post-draft rankings. There have been audio issues, scheduling issues, things of that nature. But this week, I am your host for the Week 3 Power Rankings. So I will be taking into consideration performances in the first 2 weeks, but mainly this is going to be a Week 3 power ranking, and of course, still looking back on Week 1 and Week 2. So starting off at number 16, we do have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are currently 0-3. I know Tyler has gotten off to a rough start to the season. Unfortunately, I have to put him down at 16, even though I know he's a better battler than that. But just going off of his performance this season, he's brought a lot of gimmicky sets. We saw the specially offensive Zygarde. We saw this week, we saw the specially offensive bulky Gyarados. And I mean, those sets are good and all, and it's all well and fun Pokemon. Oh, gimmicky sets are fun, but it's not putting in the work that he needs. At this point in the season, he is yet to pick up a win, and he's had some pretty definitive losses, losing 5-0 to the Shinryu Pikachus, and this week losing, handily. It's just he hasn't been performing to his full potential, and I really do think that is down to the gimmicky sets. I think if he buckles down and starts bringing some sets that he knows are going to work and knows are going to put in the work, then I think he can pull the season around. I think he can still qualify for playoffs. He's not mathematically out at this point, I don't believe. I might actually be wrong on that. I'm not good with I'm not good at deciding or figuring out if you're mathematically eliminated or not. But it's just he needs to stop bringing gimmicky sets. Those are fun and all, but in a league format, especially in a counter league format, where your opponent knows exactly the mons that you have to bring and can pretty much narrow down the sets. Those gimmicky sets are good and all if they're a good set, a good alternative set, but his sets just have not been up to par this season so far. And I know I'm being, I'm being harsh, but I want Tyler to do well. I know he can do better, and I know if he brings sets that can actually put in work, he can perform really well this season and can even make playoffs. At number 15, we have the Kansas City Kingdras, who faced off against the Baltimore Orioles this week. They were not able to pick up a win, but that was due to a handy win on CJ's part. But I still think they played well. They moved up from last place just because Tyler has yet to pick up a win. And I think that the Kingdras have been playing better this season. They haven't gotten swept except for this week. But I really think that the switch out of Dusknoir when CJ had his Salamence out into Mega Altaria was a mistake. I think continuing to Pain Split would have been a better play. I think the switch out was, I wouldn't say obvious, but it gave CJ the momentum needed to continue to sweep the rest of his team, especially once he got those Moxie boosts up. And I just think if he had stayed in and just kept pain splitting or maybe dishing out an attack or two, he might have been able to handle that Salamence. He might have forced CJ to D-Dance, and after one D-Dance, he wasn't going to knock out the Dusknoir. It would have taken 2 or 3, and at that point, he could have gotten a couple attacks in. He could have pain split a couple times. He could have gotten it to the point where he might have even taken out the Salamence, or a bullet punch from Metagross might have, he could have handled the Salamence better. I think that switch out ultimately cost him the game, and that's not even really opinion. At that point in the game, it was pretty much over. I don't think he played poorly. I think that one mistake really cost him the game, but it was a crucial mistake. It was a game-changing mistake. It really shifted the momentum to CJ, and that's when CJ said, all right, now I've got it. At number 14, we do have the Misty Drapions, who faced off against the Jersey Dwebbles this week. And the Drapions only lost by 2, but she used weakness policy Dragonite, which was solid, first of all. That was a solid play. But she just needs a little more experience. She even said in her post-com, I don't know what rock polish is. I need to figure out what that is. I just think that had this been a more experienced player, the game would have been over with that weakness policy Dragonite. I don't fault her for that. Again, everyone starts off somewhere. I think she's played well considering the little experience that she does have in competitive Pokemon. I think weakness policy Dragonite was a great call this week. With the Gardevoir in there, with Mega Bayonet in there, with Zapdos. I think that was a great call. I think she made a good play with that. I just think she needs a little more experience to learn how to utilize her Mons once she gets up that weakness policy, or once she gets up that Dragon Dance, or once she gets up a Rock Polish of her own with Diancie. I think she just needs a little more experience to be able to utilize her Monster potential, because she has a solid team. And she obviously has the team building skills. So, I just think she needs, like I said multiple times in just this few short seconds, and I apologize for this, she just needs more experience. And I think she'll be a force to be reckoned with. At number 13, we have the Shinryu Pikachus, who, in my opinion, after getting off to an astounding start, winning, losing the first match, or winning the first match against the Escavaliers, picking up a Jolteon sweep, have pretty much just been on the decline since then. Now, to be fair, going back to my comments about Tyler, he has brought some gimmicky sets. In the first week, he did bring a very gimmicky Zygarde, which could have neutralized all of the Pikachu's team, but he didn't. And Johan played that game really, really well, especially with Jolteon. But since then, he's just not been performing to the level that I thought he was going to perform to. I thought, first week I was like, oh wow, like we got someone here who's going to be a real underdog. Like he's going to, he didn't have a lot of experience going into this. He's been learning. He's been getting better. I've faced him a couple times. He's been getting better. He's a good battler. He's gone up against some difficult opponents. I will say that. He has gone up against the Dallas Manectrics and the Portland Crobats back to back. So it's not, okay, I don't want this to sound mean. It's not surprising that he lost, because the experience difference there is just so large. But compared to that start that he had, it was just, he's been fizzling out. And and you guys didn't see this, but after the first week of Power Rankings, I had him at like 8th, because I was like, oh, here we go. Like, we got us an underdog. But he has bumped down a little bit. That's not saying he's going to stay down there. He could very well turn it around, but I just think he's gone up against some tough opponents with some solid teams, and this week he lost to basically a Mega Venusaur, let's be honest. Aki played that Mega Venusaur beautifully, and he didn't have a real answer to that. He just didn't have the tools to handle it. And Aki really just forced that down his throat. He forced that Mega Venusaur down his throat, and he couldn't handle it, and that's fine. It goes down to, again, experience. He doesn't have a lot of experience, and that's fine. He's getting better. He only lost 2-0 this week against Aki, arguably one of the best battlers in the format, arguably one of the best battlers in this league, which is impressive. He got outplayed by Mega Venusaur. That's fine. He's getting better. So I think he will move up as the season goes on, but I had to bump him down from 8th and then last week from 10th, just because if I kept him up there for the potential of moving up, it wouldn't be fair to the other battlers who are performing really, really well. At number 12, we have the Sydney Crocodiles, who unfortunately were not able to pick up a win this week, but it was not due to anything that they did really. It was a solid game. I didn't see any glaring mistakes, a few questionable switches, but honestly, overall, 12 and 11 are pretty interchangeable. The only reason the Crocodiles are at 12 are because they lost. The only reason number 11 is at 11 is because they won. It was a solid game. There wasn't anything overly terrible. That I didn't see anything terrible. I didn't see anything great. It was a solid game. He performed well. Really utilized that Talonflame and that Dragouge, honestly. I would have liked to see Suicune use a little better. Suicune is my baby. I love Suicune. Anyone who's played against me in League format knows that Suicune is one of the first mons that I want to draft. I love Suicune. It's such a threat. I wish he had played that a little better. The switch into Kyurem was kind of unfortunate, just because it was basically a 2-hit KO from there, pretty much neutralizing Suicune. So I wish he'd played that a little better, but overall, it was a pretty solid game, and he's where he's at because he lost, and that's pretty much it. At number 11, we have the Great Lake Greninjas, who actually went up against the Sydney Crocodiles, and the only reason they're at 11th and not any lower is because they won. Again, he's been performing really well this season considering the opponents that he's gone up against. Going up against the Superiors week 1. How much more unfortunate can you get, honestly? But he had a very solid game this week. I enjoyed watching his battle. He definitely utilized Mega Scizor really well. Realized early on that he needed Clefable. He actually contemplated leaving Clefable in. Decided that he needed it later on, which was a great call because it actually ended up putting in a lot of work, even picking up a kill. Again, used Kyurem really well again this week. It was just a solid game. I believe he's at where he needs to be right now. I believe he has the potential to move up drastically too. But at this point in the season, he's where he needs to be, but it's not due to him playing poorly. He's had very solid games, and I'm excited to see where he goes the rest of the season. At number 10, we have the Jersey Dwebbles, who did go up against the Misty Drapions this week. That Landorus Therian sweep, can we talk about that real quick, folks? That rock polished Landorus Therian sweep was impressive. He actually moved up quite a bit this week. Last week, I had him at 14, and he moved up quite a bit this week simply because of that Landorus Therian sweep. That was some solid prep on his part. He dealt with the weakness policy, Dragonite, very well, neutralizing that huge threat very efficiently, allowing it to only pick up 3 kills, which honestly, I say only 3 kills, but a weakness policy Dragonite, ladies and gentlemen, like that is a threat. Let's be honest. Like, Banded E-Speed in and of itself is a threat, but you get a weakness policy up on that thing, E-Speed is putting in the work. So I think Cloud played really well this week. Definitely, again, impressive. That was an impressive win. Even though it was just a 2-0, it looked worse on paper than it did actually watching the battle. Like watching that battle, it was way more impressive than the 2-0 suggests, because again, he had to neutralize that Dragonite and then sweep with a Landorus, which is impressive. At number 9, we have the Dallas Staryus, who just, I don't know, they didn't seem to be on their game this week. They have had some tough opponents so far this season, going up against the Baltimore Orioles and losing, and then picking up a clean win over the Portland Crowbats. But they did lose to their hometown rivals, the Dallas Manectrics, and it was a decisive win on the Manectrics' part. Granted, there were some decisive crits, but honestly, the Manectrics just outplayed them. The Staryus were relying on crits, and that's not to sound bad. Like, that's a perfectly, I don't care. I'm not judging him for that. I don't care. You do you. I relied on crits. Everyone relies on crits. I hate when people say, oh, he relied on crits to win. Like, that's fine. Whatever. Who cares? It's in the game. It's fine. But he built his team with scope lenses and stuff like that to increase crit chance, and it ended up not panning out for him. He didn't get the crits that he needed. He got crits against him. He got unfortunate para hacks on him, but I just think the Manectrics weakened his team enough, paralyzed the threats that needed to be paralyzed, and just really handled his team, and he just did not have an answer to a team that just really dominated him the way they did this week. And I think this was just an off week for him. He only moved down 1 place, so there is room for him to keep climbing. He had an impressive win last week, which bumped him up a little bit, but this week he had to go down just a little bit. But he's a great battler. He had a good game this week. Again, it was some unfortunate hacks, but that's the way the game plays, and his team was not able to handle those hacks, which I know is hard to do, but it just left him floundering pretty much from turn like 3 or 4, which, I know he's a better battler than that, so I think he will surprise us the rest of the season. Well, not really surprise us. I kind of expect it. He's going to move up the rest of the season, but right now he's, I think, where he needs to be. At number 8, we have the Colorado Rapidash, who, I've been impressed with them so far this season. They picked up a clean win against the Jersey Dwebbles and the Baltimore Orioles, and they lost to the Frogadiers this week, which honestly is fine with me. The Frogadiers are up there for me, but I don't know. I just felt that from the beginning he was making misplays. I felt from the beginning he was making misplays that were putting him behind. he scalded turn 1 with his Mega Blastoise, knowing that the Lantern was coming in with Water Absorb. He said it in his commentary. He said, I know the Lantern's coming in. I know it probably has Water Absorb, but we'll know that. And like, yeah, that's useful information, but it's turn 1. And that put him on the back foot because he knew his Blastoise couldn't live a Thunderbolt. So from turn 1, his opponent already had momentum. From turn 1, the Frogadiers had momentum. They were forcing him out. They were reading his plays. And then later on, he Earth-powered with his Landorus Incarnate on a Cresselia. And as soon as it happened, he was like, yeah, probably should have seen that coming. It seemed like he was making predictable plays, safe middle ground plays that weren't panning out for him. And I know he's a better battler than that because he took down 2 very, very impressive battlers with 2 very impressive wins. So I bumped him down a little bit this week just because it seemed like he was in a bit of a slump. He got 4-0'd this week, and I think that was because he just kept making those predictable, safe middle ground plays. And the Frogadiers are not a team that you can make safe middle ground plays with and expect to come out with a win, because they're going to read those plays and they're going to expect some far out left field play. And when you don't make that far out left field play, they've predicted the middle ground play and they've prepared for that. And I think that's what cost him the game this week. At number 7, we have Kyle and the Mesquite Mespritz. They were able to pick up a win this week against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that's their first win this season, and it's against the last place team. I have them up so high because their only 2 games before this were against Aki and Specs, and he only lost 1-0 both those games. So honestly, he's been playing really, really well. He's been playing Mienshao really well. But this week, I don't think he played Mega Pidgeot that well. I bumped him down a little bit because, the past 2 weeks I've given him the benefit of the doubt because he's come close. The first week, really, it came down to a miss, and a misplay. But this week, I had to bump him down because he played Nidoking really well. I will give him that. He played Nidoking very well. But Mega Pidgeot switched him in, and it dropped. It didn't do anything. And I don't personally like Mega Pidgeot. I think it's one of the worst Megas. I think it's ultra predictable, and I think it's ultra frail, and I think it's bad. But if you're going to draft it and you're going to try to make it good, at least utilize it well. At least do something with it. And I know, it was just, Tyler did predict that really well, and, Scarf Magneton outsped him. Kyle even said, I think Mega Pidgeot will outspeed Scarf Magneton, but that was a bold prediction on his part. But I just don't think he played Mega Pidgeot well this week, and that's why I bumped him down a little bit. But he did pick up the win, which was nice. But again, it was against Tyler, who had a really gimmicky team this week again. So I don't think he needed to be any higher. At number 6, we have the Dallas Manectrics, who went up against the Dallas Starus, as we've already talked about. And as I've already alluded to in the Dallas Starus commentary, I just think he really handled the Starus team this week. He really, really utilized Klefki this week. I don't think I've seen a Klefki played better than that, honestly. He T-waved everything. He T-waved all of his opponent's threats. T-waving that Togekiss so that the baton pass into it was basically useless was incredible. He just handled the Starus team really, really well. The Starus have a very solid team, and the Manectrics were like, I'm not scared. I'm going to T-wave everything, and then T-Tar and Excadrill are going to come in here and clean up everything. And it was really impressive. He just really neutralized his entire opponents, the entire team, and it was impressive. And he's been playing really, really well this season, picking up a 4-0 win last week against the Pikachus, and a 1-0 win the first week against the Kingdras. I just think he's playing really, really solid, and this was another example of that. This time against an opponent of a little higher caliber, with a little more experience than the previous 2. And that's not bashing the other 2 opponents. Like I've said, they just don't have as much experience. He played an opponent who is an experienced battler, in this format, in the Counter League format, and was still able to pick up a 4-0 against him. That's impressive. Again, he just really neutralized the threats on his opponents. He recognized early on what the threats were and handled them accordingly, and that's just impressive. At number 5, we have the Baltimore Oriolus, who were able to pick up an impressive 4-0 against the Kansas City Kingdras with that Salamence sweep. And like I was saying in the Kingdras, it did come down to Kingdra switching out the Dusknoir and allowing CJ to get that D-Dance up. But like CJ still had the gall to press D-Dance on a Dusknoir that was obviously pain splitting him. That's bold play that gets you a 4-0 win with a 4-0 Salamence sweep. Then he was able to knock out the Mega Altaria, get a Moxie boost, knock out the Metagross, get another Moxie boost, and then at that point took down the Dusknoir. And that's just clean play. That's good, solid, clean, smart play. That's gonna pick you up a win. He's had a bumpy season, picking up a win against the Staryu and then losing to the Rapidash, but I think this week really showed CJ at his best. I think it showed CJ making those predictions, making those bold plays that are risky but are high risk, high reward, and he came out with a solid win this week. At number 4, we have Aki of the Portland Crobats. He's had a decent season. That sounds worse than it is. He picked up a 2-0 this week against the Pikachus. Lost last week against the Staryus, but won week 1. I think he's been underperforming this season. That sounds harsher than it is, but I do think he has been underperforming this season. I think he really played Mega Venusaur well this week. I think that may have been the missing cog in his team because he did not bring it the first 2 weeks. I think having that Mega Venusaur, it was just every time the Pikachus brought out a threat, he was like, all right, and Mega Venusaur, sponge it up. And Mega Venusaur was like, yes, sir. And just neutralized everything. Like, it was impressive. And I think that with adding Mega Venusaur to the team, that really is going to mesh together his entire team. And it gives him that complete defensive core that he was lacking in earlier games. Earlier games, he was relying on Rhyperior and Mandibuzz. Now he has 3 really solid defensive mons in Mega Venusaur, Mandibuzz, and Rhyperior that he brought this week. And he really that was one of the best played Mega Venusaurs I've ever seen. I'm gonna be honest. It picked up 3 kills and it just sponged everything. Like it went in there, took damage, synthesized up, and then hit back hard. And that's just he played it really, really well this week. At number 3, we have the Hamden Hydreigons, coached by J-Specs himself, the horse captain, the horse ambassador, picking up a loss this week. He picked up a loss this week. But, that's fine. It was against the team that I actually have ranked higher than him. But, he still played really solid this week. Rain Manaphy is a hard match to go up against. Manaphy, in my opinion, is one of the best mons in the format. Even if you predict the Tail Glow, it's still a +3 Manaphy. Like, that's just ridiculous. And the Serperiors played Manaphy really well. I'll talk about that later on. But that Manaphy it was going to put in work this week. There was nothing Specs could do about that. Like, it was here to take lives. But he has played really well this season, picking up a 5-0 week 1 and a close 1-0 against Kyle last week. But this week, he didn't play poorly. It was just his team was not capable. I don't want to say not capable because that's just not true. He could not handle the Manaphy this week. He couldn't. It came in and just took lives, and that's fine. He didn't play poorly. He just got outplayed, and that's fine. He's not a bad battler. He didn't have a bad week. His team was outplayed, and that happens, and you just have to take it on the shoulder and move on. But I do believe that he deserves to be at number 3. I do think he's had a great season, and I think he has, room, of course, to move up. I do think he is an obvious choice for playoffs, but that is just my opinion. At number 2, we have the Tampa Bay Frogadiers, who, let me just say, I did not expect them to do well this season. I don't know the Verd that much. I don't know him real well, but looking at his team post-draft, I was like, it's all right, but I expect him to be a solid middle ground contender, but man, has he proven me wrong. 4-0, 1-0, 4-0. This man is undefeated so far, and his wins have been solid. He really he played his walls well. He played the floor just well. He played the Cresselia well. Again, I do believe that the Rapidashes made some predictable middle ground plays, and Verd just really, he's a better battler than that. He's not gonna predict. He's not gonna be caught by those middle ground plays. He's going to have predicted them. He's gonna have a plan for them. We saw it with the water absorb lantern. Like, that was just like a duh. We saw with the Earth Power Landorus, with him switching in Cresselia, that again, it's just like obviously I'm going to do that. If you're going to predict me bringing in Cresselia, then you can go for something else, but it's fine. I'm still going to do it. And I mean, he just played really solid this week. And the fact that Floor just picked up 2 kills, I really like that. I love when walls pick up kills. I love it. If you guys pick up kills with your walls, you'll automatically bump up in the league. No, you won't. But it's just, he played really solid this week, and he's obviously impressing me because honestly, I didn't know him real well before this. I'd only known him as an analyst, so I did not know him as a battler. I've heard that he's good, but just looking at his team, I was like, I mean, he'll be all right this season, but he's really impressing me. And at number 1, we have the Orlando City Superiors, who, again, like I just said, picked up a 1-0 against the Hydreigons, and honestly, it was just their use of Manaphy. Setting up the Rain Dance with Rachi, and then allowing Manaphy to rest up with hydration, and then, and then, just the way they utilize Manaphy is what I'm getting at. I am rambling. Good Lord, it's bad. But just, Manaphy is there to take lives. That is what Manaphy's sole purpose in life is. And some people can't use Manaphy. I, for one, cannot use Manaphy. I can't do it. Some people just can't. But the Superiors have really utilized Manaphy well this season. There hasn't been a game where it hasn't picked up kills. It's picked up some more kills as the season has gone on. But he's been utilizing his walls really well. He's been utilizing every member of his team really well. And he took down one of the giants. He took down one of the top 4s, and that's impressive. And I think he deserves to be number 1. The reason I don't see Tampa Bay being number 1 is because his first 2 opponents were less experienced. They weren't as experienced battlers. I know I just said that, but I think the Superiors have an overall more solid team. I think they've gone up against some quote-unquote better battlers, but again, I'm meaning that in terms of they've gone up against some more experienced opponents, some veterans of the format, and have picked up some impressive wins. Again, the Manaphy this week was just impressive. Honestly, watching it, I was like, I'm not sure how Specs is gonna handle this, because that Manaphy is coming in and taking lives. Like, it is going to be a threat. You need to neutralize that as quick as possible, and Specs just wasn't able to do that this week. And that's not bashing Specs, just D-Pad played that really well this week, and I thought it was very nicely played, and I was really impressed by it. So I put him at number 1, and if you don't like that, we'll boo on you. So that is going to be the power rankings for this week, guys. Now, I do apologize for the power rankings not being there for week 1 and week 2 again. Just scheduling conflicts, illnesses, audio issues, but I will be your host and probably your sole host unless we are able to find someone else. Which would be cool, but I don't mind doing it by myself. It's fun talking to myself. But that is going to be the power rankings. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash that like button. Good Lord, what is wrong with me? Go ahead and smash that like button down below to show your support for the PMC and all of the coaches. All of the coaches will be in the description down below. There are links to the YouTube channels, their Twitters, their Instagrams, their Twitches, their Facebook, their bank accounts will all be down below. Go ahead and check all of that out. Steal all their money and crap. I'm trying to be funny. I'm not funny. But I am going to get out of here, guys, and I'll see you all next time.